Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask Massage Therapists on the Internet. I am one half of your host, Nathan Fay. I'm a licensed massage therapist, osteopath, and when I'm not in my amazing practice, Hazardville Wellness, I am on the road teaching for Dalton Miles Skeletal. And who is joining me tonight?
I'm your co-host, Ben Stone. Been doing massage for over 20 years, and I was driving down the interstate out east, and I saw this big billboard for Hazardville Wellness. I was like, "Wow, look at that! Nate's really killing it." So Nate and I make this show called Ben and Nate's Questions We Ask Massage Therapists on the Internet, and we ask questions of you. Nate, tell them how it works.
Pretty simple. Ben and I post questions on the internet. We have a Facebook page, Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. We pose a question about the massage industry, and we want your answers because your answers help to make up the show and our episodes.
Because we want to know what you're thinking. And so we discuss it. And there's so many aspects and so many different things revolving around the massage and manual therapy industries that, man, it's just so interesting, all the things that are out there. And Nate and I were talking off air a little bit earlier about some things that we're going to bring to you in the future that I think are going to be real interesting. You're going to want to tune in the next few episodes for sure.
You know, Ben, and one thing that we do best, man, we have elements, right? We have elements of the coolness of our good friends, two RMTs and a mic, with a little bit of education, like our friends on the Thinking Practitioner. But we take those elements and we put in some other ingredients that make Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet, don't we?
That's right. I mean, we got cool things going on. We got microphones. We got real microphones.
And it's free. It's free to listen to us.
That's right. I mean, where else can you get entertainment, education, and infotainment? How about that?
Infotainment.
Yeah.
So, Ben, what the heck's been going on in Omaha, Nebraska these days?
You know, Omaha, we're heading into June, but you wouldn't know it. The temperatures are right around between 50 and 60 degrees right now. Normally, we're probably hitting the high 80s, maybe touching 90s. So we got some rain today. But really, personally, I'm just still chugging away, learning some more about photography. And then pretty soon I'll be jumping over back into massage learning and headed out toward Oklahoma City, then back to Omaha, and who knows where else I'm going to end up. But what have you been up to, Nate?
I gotta say, man, the weather's been, we're in between, we're in spring, heading towards summer. It's been a rough spring. It's just been cold, rainy. It's rained every weekend. There was just a little factoid last week. It's rained every weekend since February out here. So that doesn't leave a lot of room. I'm starting to go a little stir crazy, if you know what I mean.
I feel like the little frowny face cloud from Super Mario Brothers is just
Yeah.
kind of following you around.
So weird. Sunday, there was no rain, and we went and met a couple of my friends down at the lake, and we're gonna have like a picnic, take the boats out. And here we are. We were like in winter coats. So then my buddy said, well, let's go for ice cream. So they wanted to take us to this cool ice cream place. Why not when it's 48 degrees out? Everyone's getting ice cream in their winter coats and winter hats on in May, or June, really. It was June 1st. So weird. So
Yeah.
weird.
Wow.
So anyway, but other than that, practice has been good. You mentioned Oklahoma City. We're T minus it's 5.5 weeks to our 3-day Oklahoma tribute event for Eric, and we'll pay tribute to him and tell some amazing stories. But we're going to do a lot of teaching around that as well. So you're going to be there,
I'll be there.
and I'll be there, and we have quite the roster of people that are going to be getting up on stage, and our enrollment's looking really good. But there's still space for that class, so if don't miss out on this one.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you're going, let us know down in the comments where we can find you, where we can look for you, because we want to see you there, Oklahoma City.
And listen, Ben and I will take pictures with you if you are there.
At no charge.
No charge. That's right.
Yeah.
So Ben, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what our podcast is all about, what else you got for me this week?
Oh man, I don't know. I kind of ran across this. I thought I'd ask you, but what's a six-letter word that means a false feeling of accomplishment? A six-letter word that means a false feeling of accomplishment.
Well, you can see in my brain I'm counting the numbers of some of the words that were phrased in that questions, but a false, let's see, a six-letter word that means a false sense of accomplishment.
Yep.
You got me.
Wordle.
There it is.
Are you familiar with that game?
A little bit. I've got clients that tell me all about it. Right? That
Yeah,
they
I've
play.
never played it myself, but it's one of those things where people, oh, I did it in two, I did it in three. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Congratulations.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're a Wordle player, way to go on your accomplishments.
That one was for you.
Yes.
And that leads us nicely into the question that was asked on the internet. And you're so good at reading these questions, so lay it on us.
Yeah, this comes straight off of our Facebook page called Ben and Nate's Questions. We ask people on the internet geared toward massage therapists. And our question of the day reads, what's one accomplishment in your massage career that you're most proud of and why? The big part is the and why, where I don't think we got a lot of and whys to the answers, but we did get a lot of answers, which was kind of neat, kind of cool to see. Sometimes we get a lot of answers, sometimes we don't get a lot of answers, but that's how this show works. We ask the questions, you give us the answers, we talk about it, and that's how we have the fun.
And listen, man, it's cool to talk about yourself, right? Brag, you should brag in our worlds, right? Solo practices, and we don't really get to brag too much to our friends and family because our friends and family are they don't know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I've brought this up in past episodes too. That I kind of suffer from the imposter syndrome, and
Mm.
imposter syndrome people don't like to brag about themselves. But I mean, here we give you an opportunity to tell us everything, brag about your accomplishments because we want to hear them. Because honestly, it's important, isn't it?
So one accomplishment, Ben, I would imagine, gentlemen like yourself that's been practicing for over 20 years, you've probably had more than one accomplishment that you're proud of, right? But what is one accomplishment that you're proud of?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me something like that. You know, and before we get into that, because I do have a list of accomplishments that I am proud of. Um, but you said it earlier. As a massage therapist, we're kind of we work alone, and our family and friends don't really care to hear about it. And partly, I think some of our accomplishments are both professional and personal because we are who we are. We're massage therapists and we're people. And I think they kind of combine, like professional and personal accomplishments kind of seem to mix for me a little bit because, somebody could say, well, I don't know, at a sales job, I was the highest ranking salesman. I sold the most cars this month.
Yeah.
But when you're working for yourself, it's different. Like, hey, I posted, personal best this month and I worked on more people than I'd ever worked on, that kind of thing. So I don't know. That was a thought that came to my head, and I wanted to throw that out there before we started talking about accomplishments. And you kind of snuck in the what's your accomplishments, Ben? And I just kind of sidestepped that a little bit.
I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you did. Yeah, you work in a, let's say you use the example of selling cars, right? And your salesman of the month, there's a certificate on the wall, there's your picture in the break room. And yeah, there's nothing like that. Okay. So all of a sudden you saw that your personal best, you saw let's say 45 clients this week, right? Personal best. And nobody knows that but you. There's no certificate, Ben. There's no picture of you in your break room.
But
What
why
a
can't there be? Why don't we celebrate our successes like that And I have a couple people that I work in the same office space with. We're all independent, but every once in a while I'll hear that from one of them. Hey, I had a good week this week, or I worked with somebody who I was able to help this week. And those little things, they don't come across as um, plaque on the wall worthy, but it's
Right.
like, hey, that's pretty awesome. I like to hear that. And for people to brag about themselves like that. I mean, some people are willing, some people are a little bit, slow to do that. And why can't we?
I love seeing our colleagues on Facebook make those posts, right? I love seeing my colleagues post things like, hey, I had my best grossing month at my practice, or some of our colleagues post reviews that just came into their practice. I read them. I actually take a minute to read what people are posting, like these reviews that they get. And I'm just real proud to see that stuff. And for our colleagues that post that, it's super cool. Sometimes an accomplishment for me, Ben, is just getting my paperwork done for the day at my office. Right?
I mean, I was gonna lead off with being able to tie my shoes in the morning as a kind of an accomplishment.
Then there's that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as certainly as a business owner, and of course we've talked this about this a million times, we wear so many hats in our practice, right? So I had to do a ton of like paperwork today. I had a ton of busy work today. And it's hard to do, just have to take that like 15 minutes that I get in between clients, right? And just hack away. So one thing, basically takes me all day because I'm putting in 10 minutes of time. And but I got it done. And I literally left my practice tonight. I had two Mondays and Tuesdays are my busiest days. So today I saw 8 people today. And I was most proud that I got this paperwork done.
Yeah.
That was an accomplishment for me. So, it's interesting how these things change. And, I don't, it's funny because I love getting reviews when people review me on Google or Facebook, but I've been terrible about asking for them over the years, primarily because I don't know. I don't It's not like I go online and review my doctor or anything like that. So I think we're kind of like in this different space. And but it's nice when people independently do it. But I'm not like a big like give me a review guy. Eh, And I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I just want to share this. I was taking a bass lesson, with Anthony a couple weeks ago. I've talked about Anthony on our show before. And Anthony is one of probably the most renowned bass instructors in the whole world, right? And I was talking to him and I said, Anthony, I said, you're an interesting guy because here you are, one of the most renowned instructors, probably one of the most brilliant guys in the music business. And I said, you have a beyond full teaching schedule. He doesn't need more students, right? I mean, he has a full book for the rest of his life. And he doesn't advertise, he doesn't do anything. His social media output is like bare bones minimal. There's no reviews about Anthony, there's no videos of him on YouTube demonstrating how amazing he is. There's nothing. And I said, it's just so in a world of Instagram where everybody's showing off, right? Showing off their skills, showing off everything. I'm like, you don't do anything. And I said, it's interesting to me that you don't put anything out there, but you have this full schedule. And he was cool. And he's like, well, what do I have to prove? He's like, I got nothing to prove to anybody. You know what I mean? And I'm like, right. He's like, I have a full schedule. He's like, I've had a full schedule for 30 plus years. And the people that study with me, know who I am and know what I do. And I just thought that was like pretty cool.
That's interesting. It's got a lot of gears grinding for me, and I'm thinking about this. But you know, um, someone who's been at it a long time, and I'm gonna say probably before 2000, maybe 2001. I think the internet started to get bigger probably 2005, where you almost needed to have a website. But
Yeah.
before that, you didn't need you just needed to be who you were. Maybe you did some yellow pages stuff. Maybe you did some other advertising, but really you did the work that you do and people found out through word of mouth. And we all know that word of mouth is probably the best, but it's also slowest. But yeah, once you get to a point, what do you have to prove to anybody about what you do? Like they heard about you for a reason and they're searching you out for a reason rather than
Right.
being influenced by some advertisement or some YouTube video or some social media link. Like they're coming because they've already heard from somebody else the good stuff.
You jarred me. You unlocked a memory, for me in those early days of massage, right? The whole website thing, and websites like Vistaprint were kind of new, and there, you got to design your own business cards, and they had logos for massage therapists, and it was like, I mean, in 2004, it looks so amazing. And I don't want to get off topic, but you sort of think about that, right? You went from like a yellow pages thing. I remember making flyers still, right? To
Oh
hang
yeah.
up in the gyms and things like that. Of course, getting business cards off of Vistaprint and then actually getting a website. And now it's wild, right? Like you don't really even need a website anymore. I
You
mean, you do, but you don't.
right.
And then Facebook, right? 2000. I mean, Facebook for businesses probably more like 2012, 13, maybe,
Right. Because in
maybe
the
14
beginning
or 15.
you had Facebook and you had MySpace.
And then it was making YouTube videos and
Yeah.
90-second YouTube videos, and they shouldn't be longer than 90 seconds. And now, the average video they're saying should be no longer than 15 seconds, is my understanding. And
Oh
Insta,
really?
yeah, and Instagram is, of course, kind of reigning supreme in terms of social media these days, and X and things like that. But anyway, we're getting off topic, but it's pretty interesting. So back to accomplishments, though. So what an accomplishment, because my Facebook business page, Hazardville Wellness, probably has 580 likes. I probably have less than 60 reviews after 20 years in practice. Yet I'm booked out. I mean, without even thinking about it, I'm probably booked out till September and October right now, and I don't advertise. So, and God bless my colleagues, man. I love when my colleagues are like, "Oh my God, I just went up to 2,000 followers on my Facebook page, and I just got my 115th Google review." And again, I think it's cool, but I also, I know for me personally, I think it's kind of cool that, I don't know, for some reason, I'm not really doing any of that stuff.
No, and I ran across something a while back, and the younger kids, they're all about. They're like, "Oh, you're a streamer, you're a YouTuber,
Yeah.
you're an influencer. How many followers do you have?" And they're
Right.
like, "Oh, I got 10,000 followers, 15,000 followers." Um, and that kind of boils over into when someone creates a social media post, they like to look at how many likes there is. I don't have any social media accounts that are generating money, and I don't know how much likes influence how much money you make. But to sit there and look at how many likes, a like doesn't make me any money. I mean, yeah, it's cool, and it's nice to have a post that gets recognized, but um, I'm doing the things that make me the money when I'm in my office. I'm not chasing likes and shares and all that stuff through social media. I'm just being who I am, doing the best I can, and trying to make people feel better through my
Yeah.
office. I don't know if that's coming across the way I wanted it to, but
No, it is, man. I heard something a while ago that, somebody said that as long as it looks like you're still open online, right? Like, so if somebody went to my Facebook page, so Memorial Day was about a week ago, right? So I always try to post something on these holidays. So I made a happy, Memorial Day post, right? And I mean, my last post before that was probably like a month, like a happy Easter post or a Passover, something like that. And it's like, to me, that's like those little posts that have nothing to do with what Nate Faye does in his practice. If somebody is like, oh, I heard about this guy, Nate Faye or Ben Stone, they go to the website. Well, let me check their Facebook page. Okay, well, they've posted in the last couple of weeks, so obviously they're still open. And that's kind of like my thoughts with that, how the why I post on Facebook still.
Yeah, that's a great point because I can tell you I personally have gone to some places and you look and like, oh, the last time they posted was 2012. Like,
Right? Are they still open?
yeah, like what? That
Yeah,
looks a
it's
little
interesting.
sketch.
And Instagram's a wild place too, because it's for me, I'll use my Instagram page more for like, my seminars and almost the brand of Nate Faye as like a seminar instructor, and posting little technique videos or quick little video blogs. And again, just so in the seminar world, I look open and relevant, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a
Anyway,
great idea. I
off
love that.
topic, off topic here. But anyway, so accomplishments, but I like this. I like both of us because I think we're similar on that, of putting an accomplishment like, hey, Ben and Nate and many of us are doing minimal social media posts, yet somehow are, doing more than fine in practice. And hey, listen, my primary care physician, shout out to Dr. Shaw. Dr. Shaw's not on Facebook and Instagram, holding the camera out here and, you
Yeah.
know, hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about the flu this week. There's nothing like that. The guy's booked out probably for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
So,
that's interesting. It makes me think about what industries don't necessarily need to have a social media presence. Like there's enough people out there that need some sort of healthcare where a doctors probably don't need to do that. Um,
yeah. And once in a while, though, I'll actually run across, like when I'm mindlessly scrolling through Instagram Reels, I'll come across like orthopedic doctors, like just doing quick 30-second little chats about hip replacements. And I always find them interesting and I stop to watch them, especially if they're, and some of these docs, men and women, also know how to put on a show for the camera. Because certainly nobody wants 30 seconds of a boring man or woman in a suit and tie or a whatever and just monotoningly talking about hip
yeah.
replacements. Right? Anyway, that's a good accomplishment for both of us. So what else could be an accomplishment, right? How much people grossed per month, how many clients maybe that you saw that week, which was groundbreaking for you. Um, there's so many different things that we could. What are other accomplishments that people could talk about in our world?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we should just go to our Facebook page and pull up some answers that people shared with us.
Let's do it.
We
Let's
could
do
we
it.
could get a few ideas from that.
All
I know
right.
I know you like to read through those, so I'll give you a second to kind of um, peek through those. But I mean, there's so many. I mean, how big does an accomplishment have to be? I mean, some days I think it's an accomplishment that I just made it into work. Like some days are like, it's not that I don't want to go to work because I love it when I'm there, but some days it's just like, I don't know, like molasses is just float all over me and I'm not moving fast. And it's like, oh man, I want to get to work, but I'm just not moving fast. So how big does an accomplishment have to be considered an accomplishment? I think you can count all kinds, small, big, whatever.
Hey, listen, we're human, and I 23 weekends of rain in New England, and Monday I wake up to go to my practice and it's 85 and sunny. I'm human too, and it's an accomplishment that I didn't cancel my whole day.
Yeah.
But well, anyway, we got some good ones. So actually, I'm going to go right to this one because it's in line with what we were just talking about. And Jenny posted, I was always weirdly, I like how she posted weirdly proud of the fact that I've never publicly advertised. A Practice built from reputation and referrals. And right, it is weird. And I agree with the word weird because there is this pressure. There is this pressure to be on social media and have reviews and have likes and everything that we just talked about. And I still fight in my own head. Am I screwing myself for the long term by not spending enough time in that department? So I love that she used the word weirdly. Totally appropriate.
Yeah, it's an odd word. I understand it, but
I understand
I,
it too.
yeah, I don't feel like we should be, like you said, we shouldn't be pressured into
Yeah.
just feeling like we have to post on social media just because everyone else is.
Yeah.
Because then
It feels
you could break that down into why are you on social media in the first place, and what is your plan, what's your goal, how are you going to measure those. You could break it down as much as far as you wanted to, versus I'm just going to throw a few things on there, have fun. Because really, how much does social media really gain you, unless you're out like hitting it hard, have an agency that's guiding you to where you need to be, and telling you what to do. Like, I don't know that just posting randomly on social media is really that helpful.
right. Right. And like you said, it depends on, I guess it depends ultimately what your goals are. I mean, Dalton, Eric, and I used to talk about, Eric put out a ton of social media content. The beautiful thing about Eric's legacy is he recorded about 120 hours more technique videos about a year before he died. And none of that stuff's even really been on the chopping block to edit and really release yet. I mean, it's slowly but surely out there, but I mean, we've probably got another 2 to 3 years of Dalton unreleased Eric Dalton content, which is like really cool. But prior to Eric dying, Eric was releasing all this content all the time, twice a week. And his YouTube videos, I mean, off the top of my head, I've got, most of them have averaged tens of thousands of views, where it would be enough to yield him a paycheck from YouTube. And, he never monetized his videos for that reason. He didn't want it. He didn't want the money. And Eric probably could have had, my guess is probably a pretty good residual income coming out of that. But again, getting off top, I'm the king of getting off topic here tonight, Ben.
No, I mean, we don't necessarily have to always follow an agenda, because you know what? This is our show. We do what we want.
Right. But I do have an answer I want to read. Getting
Yeah.
back to the topic, for those of you that didn't take their ADD medication like myself today, um, so I like this one. I'm going to paraphrase this one
Yeah.
because I think I'm going to paraphrase this and turn this into an accomplishment. But this comes from Dave, and Dave talks about, learning how to like listen to people, understanding how to be empathetic, knowing that he can't fix everybody, right? But proud that every client comes to us for a reason. And I'm going to paraphrase and dive off of Dave's answer because I think it's an accomplishment that at some point in our career, we learn that we're not for everybody and everybody's not for us. And I think it's an accomplishment to be able to understand that patient or client psychology, to tell people like, listen, I can't help you, right? Or yes, I can help you. And hey, I may not be able to totally fix this issue, but I can move you better. So the accomplishment of sort of like transparency with our clients, and I think that takes a lot of time and growth to get to that point.
That is so true.
Yeah. And I think it's a big accomplishment once you hit that point in your career. So I like Dave's answer. And other people talked about becoming more effective, right? As we learn and grow, right? You just continue to be a more effective therapist. And so let's see what else. Oh, I like this one. I was told massage school. I was told it would take 5 to 6 years to make a good living as an LMT. And you know, but so she was told it would take a long time to make a living, and she accomplished making a living in a short amount of time. So I thought that's pretty cool. Like, don't believe the hype of massage school. I mean, all the things that you and I have talked about, 20 years ago, you're not going to make it because you're a man. You're never going to make money. You're going to have to retire after 10 years because of physical burnout. And yeah, it's an accomplishment just having longevity in this career. Absolutely.
Yeah, the average career expectancy of a massage therapist is 6 years or less.
Oof.
Yeah. If I would have known
Crap.
that going into massage school, I probably would have thought again about doing that. But um,
I was told that after I enrolled in the massage school, and my thought, well, I said, this is my last stop. So I said, I'm not doing this for less than 10 years. This is going to be the rest of my life. So it is what it is.
yeah, so you and I are the ones that are raising the average on that. You know, in massage school, we've talked about this before. Massage school is a lot of them tend to hold on to old beliefs. You know, like um, they don't let go of the past. Like, oh, it's going to take you at least 5 years until you get till you get busy, and it's you got to do this and you got to do this. But in this digital age where there's so much information available, so just at your fingertips. Like if I would have had half of what I had now, I mean, it did
Oh,
take me a good 5 years before I started to get busy, but
me too.
um, I didn't have the tools that I have now. I mean, man,
Yeah.
if I'd have had half of this stuff, oh,
Yeah.
whoa,
Agreed. Agreed. It took me about 5 years before I actually saw, had started to see the light of day there. And I'll even say it was really 7 or 8 years before I felt like I was finally like, okay, this is going to happen for me. But like you said, we didn't have everything that we talked about tonight. Social media. I mean, that just was not in our wheelhouse whatsoever.
yeah,
So those are some good ones. Here's an interesting one because I think about this a lot myself. Because my brain's always thinking about how can Nate Faye have like residual income without being a multi-level marketing weirdo. Sorry, multi-level marketing people, and I'm allowed to say weirdo because I drank the Kool-Aid about 8 years ago with some of those businesses. That's a different episode. But
different
with that
episode.
being
I can't
said,
wait to get there.
but with that being said, patents on massage inventions, right? So that's like a pretty interesting one, and so maybe accomplishing like bringing an invention to the massage world, which a couple of our Facebook colleagues I know have. I know this particular person that wrote in, Lila. She had a massage table that she had patented, which is that's pretty big. That's a huge accomplishment, right?
Yeah,
One of my other people on my page, he made some sort of like head and neck device, like a self massager head and neck device, and put a patent on that. And I thought that was like pretty cool. And I always thought, man, it would be cool to like develop something, for my colleagues, right? So I kind of like that. And what would that be? Our friend the Rebel Allison Denny out in the West, she came out with her own brand of massage creams and oils and put all these cool names to them. And I know she's successful selling things like that. And I don't know, I just love seeing little things like that because really our massage business is a table, maybe some oil and some cream, and the person on the table, right? So all of a sudden you come up with something sort of that's never been done before. And I think that's a huge accomplishment.
yeah, for sure. Um, the invention that I've been holding back, I'm going to share it with you and all of our listeners today, so that
Hey,
maybe someone can bring it into fruition. But it has to do with how sometimes people have issues with like turning over on the table. So I wanted to help people get turned over more easily. And there's
all
there's there's two different versions of this that I have in my head. And the first
right.
one is how you flip pancakes on the
Yeah.
skillet? Yeah.
Yeah.
So somehow incorporate some springs into the table, you hit a button and it flips them up over. You just have to make sure that they don't go up high enough and hit the ceiling when they flip over. That's number one.
Love it.
The other version is kind of like you go to uh the gas station and they have those hot dogs on the rollers. So you just get some rollers on the table and it just rolls them over.
I love it. There's a that reminds me, and this is so what you just talked about, right? That's not been invented yet now, but in the same ballpark, there's this therapy table that's been advertised around. It's about $10,000, $10 to $12,000 for this table. And I mean, this thing is just pretty wild. And one of the things it does, if your patient has a hard time getting down laying on the table comes fully upright and you lean against it and it lays you down. I thought that was like pretty cool.
I think chiropractors have had those types of tables available for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, that was my first time seeing one in the past year, but
Okay.
well, we'll get a rolling
Hot dog roller.
yeah, the rolling table 2000. Yeah.
Yes.
When you and I buy Tesla robots next year, we can consult with our Tesla robot how to invent this thing.
Ooh, nice.
So those were some good answers, and then a lot of other people just talked about similar things about their journey into the massage world. Teaching in a massage school. I think that's pretty cool, right?
It's a
Bringing
great
what you know
accomplishment. Yeah. I mean,
into education. Students that connect with you years later and be like, "Hey, man, you really helped me." I mean, from the seminars that I've taught over the years, I love getting the random email from somebody that I might have forgotten about. That's like, hey, I took a class with you a few years ago, and those techniques really worked, and I'm so much busier in my practice. That's like great stuff. So yeah, those were good, man. But I still love that one answer. I'm weirdly proud of the fact that I didn't do anything except for word of mouth. That was my favorite one.
well, I am unweirdly proud that she was able to do that. Like, way to
Yeah.
go. Good job. Good job, Jenny. It was Jenny. Yeah. So
So
then let
Ben,
me
yeah, go ahead, buddy.
let me ask you, what's a couple of accomplishments that you can rattle off from your career?
Well, we talked about a lot of them, right? So I mean, certainly, 20 years now in the massage world, and feeling like my mind and body has another 20 years to go, and I'm excited about that. And having a full practice that I don't really advertise, making a living as a massage therapist, those are all cool things. Making it as a things that people said I would never do, making it as a male in the industry, right? But those are all big accomplishments, and but truly, the one that I say the most, that 2007, getting a video of Eric Dalton saying, I want to hang out with that guy and be that guy one day. And now fast forward all these years, and you know, standing up on stage with him, and now, the torch, being passed, and uh taking over Eric's Costa Rica Pain Relief in Paradise retreat that he did for 25 years. And it's just weird to me. It's just bizarre. And it's a weirdly I'm weirdly proud of that.
Well,
And
there's
because 20 years ago, I mean, that was just sort of like in my head, thinking that would never happen. And it's just pretty wild that 20 years later that you know I had that relationship with Eric, that the relationship that we had over the past 6 years, and going from that relationship to all of a sudden, taking over his Costa Rica retreat. It's bizarre.
well, I think that's pretty awesome accomplishment. And um, one of the things I don't. So I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits. Are you familiar with that book?
Nuts are nuts.
It's it's on bestseller list, that kind of thing. But it talks about accomplishing goals. And I'm just started it, so I'm not very far into the book. But it's interesting that it talks about we look at goals versus systems. How did you get to that goal? And I think about how did you get to where you're at now? There were systems in place, whether you knew it or not. There were
Yeah.
things that you were doing. There were certain things you did on a daily basis, weekly basis, habits that you had that helped get you to where you're at. And at some point, you can look back and say, hey, this is what I accomplished by doing A, B, C, and D on a regular basis. And that's what got me to where I'm at now versus just, um, arbitrarily picking some goal to either accomplish or fail at.
Some people have natural talent and natural ability for some things, and but I think the average person either has to put in the work or not put in the work. And I even think I would imagine that most people that put in the work don't even necessarily realize how much work there is to put into. And it's the old, like the question that's probably been around for about 100 years, which is how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, right?
Yeah.
And the bajillion hours of practice that one would have to put in to play the famous stage one day. And it's like anything. I'll admit it, man. Like I'm a workaholic, and it doesn't stop, right? It doesn't stop when you come home at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And
I think about other industries. Think about, I don't know. I'm just going to pick on a grocery store, like some, some guy who's sacking groceries. Do you think he comes home and thinks about how can I, how can I get better at sacking groceries? And I say this only because I used to be that guy. I would come home and think about that. Like, how am I going to get these boxes of cereal better fit into the grocery bag? Um, but how many people actually, I'm going to say in a corporate world, what would that look like? An accountant or someone. But if you are passionate about what you do, it's just natural for it to come with you wherever you're at. If you're
right.
thinking about body work, you're going to bring it home with you regardless. Like you're going to, like I look up anatomy videos. If you were to look at like my history of what I look at on the internet, you're going to see like anatomy, pathology, all the ologies. You're going to see kind of weird stuff like, what in the world? You think I'd be some sort of like serial killer, but no, I just want to learn more about the body and how I can help. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but you sparked an idea in me.
No, but it's true, man. And I remember a long time ago, probably 12 or 13 years ago. I remember hearing that James Wazowski said that. He says every night I go home and I pick one thing to read about the human body, just one thing. I just pick an area, and I've made that a habit for a long time. Of course, now we have apps, so I open up an app and I pick one area and just do either a study or a reread on it. You know, it's cool stuff, man. Cool habits to have. So, what about you? We've talked about all these accomplishments, and what are some of your accomplishments? But what's your one big one?
Oh, well, I've got two, and I didn't think about this as an accomplishment until we were just talking, but I think the big one of the big accomplishments that I've had most recently is just to be happy every day showing up to work and to be happy with what I'm doing. And I'm still I'm chasing excellence. I'm always trying to get better, but I'm not trying to impress anybody. And that was a question that came across my face, my desk a while back is, are you searching out excellence or are you trying to impress people? And that's part of the imposter syndrome in me. And I'm like, you know what? I am chasing excellence. I'm not trying to impress anybody anymore. I don't have any, the only person I want to impress is myself, and I challenge myself to get better all the time. So just being happy in the place that I work, I think is a great accomplishment. Because how many people go to work and just hate what they do or are just not happy? Like, oh God, it's Monday. I got to go to work again. Like, I'm perfectly happy to go into work on a Monday, on a Sunday, on a Saturday. I don't care. Like I like going into work.
There is no case in the Mondays in my world. Yeah,
No,
it's so true, man. And you know, I'm not gonna lie. Let's not say this too loud. But like by Sunday, I'm like, I can't wait to go back to work.
that's a pretty good feeling, isn't it?
It's a great, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Sure is. Yeah.
And then there's also another accomplishment. I can't even, I can't not mention it, but it's been about, I'm going to say a year and a half ago or so. We started this podcast. How big of an accomplishment is that? We haven't, I mean, we're still doing this. We're putting out episodes. We're having fun doing what we're doing. I mean, I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. We set out to just create a podcast and that's what we did. I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
It's real cool. This is a right. This is kind of a hard show to do in a way that when and well, it's not hard, right? Let me rephrase that. It's it's content wise, right? A year and a half ago, 2 years ago,
Something like that. Yeah.
like that, right? You ask questions, I ask questions. Let's talk about it. That's kind of how this show got started, right? A fateful meeting in Jacksonville, Florida,
That's right.
when it was 127 degrees out. And anyway, and it's interesting, right? So Ben and I, coming up with questions, on a pretty weekly basis, that's kind of the goal. And to keep thinking of questions in our industry, it's kind of back to the patent and invention thing. Like, what are you going to invent? Right. So Ben and I kind of have to invent all these questions, week after week. And certainly before we recorded tonight, we came up with, we've got three on the docket to do, and we've got two more that we came up with tonight. And I think that's kind of it's the hard part about this show, and impressive to me that you and I can keep coming up with questions pertaining to our field. The conversations are the easy part, though. That's the fun part, man, is getting online and doing this. That part's easy.
It is. And, you and I could get together and we don't need questions necessarily because we could do this. And we talked about that. We don't need that. But what we want to do is incorporate everyone else as best possible. So I think that's the challenging part is to come up with questions that are interesting to our listeners. Like what is going to invite you guys that are listening to, share. That's where we really want to get. So if you have any
Yeah.
ideas, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, and we're coming in hot. Probably by September, we'll be looking down the pipe of 50 episodes, which is a huge accomplishment, right? And I've heard that in the podcast world, it's 15 after that people really start paying attention and it becomes a thing. So
We're getting there.
we're getting there. So
Yeah.
I agree with you, Ben, and I didn't bring that up, and I'm glad you did. But yeah, this is a pretty big accomplishment to be able to talk about this stuff week after week. It's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
I don't know how many accounting podcasts there are, or I don't know why I pick on accounting, engineering podcasts, or I'm sure there are, but I kind of am partial to the massage and bodywork industry, and so I like what we're doing, and like I said, in order to keep this fresh, we need input from you guys that are listening.
I listened to this other podcast. It's probably maybe like a little more famous than ours, called The Drive by Peter Attia. And Peter Attia is probably somewhere in like the 200s with 200 episodes plus. And
Nice.
it's interesting to me because it's all, science based, a lot of science stuff that he talks about. But it's like pretty wild because a lot of his podcasts are like 2.5 hours long. Right. And I'm like, talk about a lot of content. Whoa. Anyway, thought that was interesting.
This is interesting. We'll get
And
there.
this was a fun one tonight, man.
We always have fun. They're all fun.
A lot of takeaways. I think this was I didn't know where this conversation was going to go. So I think there was a lot of takeaways tonight. It was
Yeah. So
good.
tell me one of your big takeaways.
Oh man.
Or what
The
what left an impression on you?
whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be you. I think you know what, just be you, and don't feel pressured by what your colleagues are doing. If it's working for you and it feels good and you're kicking butt in the massage room, do it.
Yeah, I'm going to say don't be afraid to celebrate even the smallest accomplishments. I made a joke earlier about just getting my shoes tied. That was an accomplishment.
That's right.
But really, sometimes, some days, just depending on where you're at, what's going on in your world, some days just getting your shoes tied is about all some people can muster to do. And 90% of it is just showing up. The other
Yeah.
10% you already know. So taking time to celebrate those accomplishments and share them. Like for one, I want to hear your accomplishments. I know we got a few people who shared their accomplishments on our Facebook page. But if you want to revisit that, send us direct messages, emails, whatever you want to do. I want to hear your accomplishments, and I want to tell you congratulations on your accomplishments.
That's right. All right, my man. Hey, this was
Yes.
episode 39.
Episode 39.
Questions that we ask people on the internet. So subscribe to Apple Podcasts and Spotify so that you can get notified when these shows get released.
Ooh. Notifications.
Notifications. That's right. Hey, Ben. It's good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We love that you're here, and we love to invite you back to see us in the future.
Bye-bye.